Good morning, everyone. The Finance and Investment Cell, SRCC, is delighted to welcome you all to Episteme 2021. With over 10,000 registered participants, Episteme 2021 is one of India's largest finance fest at the undergraduate level. Organized each year as our annual festival, Episteme is a two-day series of speaker sessions and competitions that is one of the unmissable part of the North Campus experience. Even though the COVID-19 pandemic has forced this edition of Episteme to be held virtually on 7th and 8th April, we are very happy to say that the fest has witnessed global participation. This year's Episteme has 6 finance-based events, insightful panel discussions, and 6 special speaker sessions. All of our events have received more than 1,500 registrations each, taking the total participant pool to above 10,000. Like every year, Episteme 21 also has collaborations with leading corporates such as Grant Thornton India, Ernst & Young, HDFC Mutual Fund, Bajaj Capital, Business Standard, HDFC Credila, and several others. Distinguished experts from the banking sector and from the field of public policy are set to enlighten us and address us with their thoughts at this year's edition of Episteme. Once again, welcome to Episteme 2021.
To declare Episteme open and to share his thoughts with us, we have a luminary from the field of public policy who needs no introduction. Shri Vinod Rai served as the 24th Comptroller and Auditor General of India from 2008 to 2013. A recipient of the prestigious Padma Bhushan, Sir has spent a lifetime in inspiring, committed public service. Sir joined the Indian Administrative Service in 1972 and is one of our nation's finest and most distinguished civil servants. Sir has also served as the chairman of the UN panel of external auditors. So, the Finance and Investment Cell is honored to have you with us. I now invite Saroj Joshi ma'am, our faculty advisor, to welcome sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the first day of the annual festival Episteme of Finance and Investment Cell SRCC. And it is our honor and a privilege to have Shri Vinod Rai as our esteemed speaker for the session. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time for SRCC. It is indeed a matter of pride for all of us to have you with us. I welcome you, sir. Now I request you to kindly take over the session and enlighten us with your thoughts.
Well, Saroj Joshi ma'am, Nekunj, Manasvi, thank you very much for having me today amongst you all. It's a great pleasure to be among youngsters. I would have loved to be physically present there and talk to all of you. But well, COVID being what it is, has introduced a new normal, and this normal is going to be virtual. I must thank Devashish and Team FIC for their persuasive manner in which they got me into this. I have today and tomorrow sessions with the IFRS, but that is London time based, so I have morning free, because of which I could join you people, and it's a great pleasure for me to be amongst all of you. While I was discussing with Devashish and kind of planning what should I speak to you folks about, he mentioned to me about an analysis made by students about Indian ESG indices and their conventional counterparts, a comparative study. That was the time roughly I was thinking that what is contemporary these days? Financial standards we are all very familiar about. It's the non-financial standards which are now gaining currency in the world. And your comparative study was indeed a very good study. And it has come to the conclusion that in India, after carrying out all these tests, you found that the mean returns and the volatility of both indices is near about the same, thus negating the fact that Indian ESG securities offer better returns. Now, I must congratulate the team that did the study. It is very analytical, it is very incisive, very professional, and I must say is much beyond today's normal student levels. So, team, well done. But I have mustered courage to discuss with you folks to sensitize Gen Next, to sensitize all of you youngsters on 2 issues that will be playing a very prominent role in whatever career path that you choose for yourselves. You're undergraduates now. You will take about 4 years, 5 years more in your educational process to get into the job market. And in India, these issues will hit different sectors around the time that you guys hit the job market. And what I propose to talk to you about is the importance, number one, of sustainability reporting, which is distinct from financial reporting. And number two, my pet subject about how ethical standards have assumed iconic proportions today and what you will face when you go out into the good, big, bad world, the job market. What will you face? Now, what's the background for all this and how did it all commence? You're all familiar with the subprime mortgage crisis, which hit the world from the US. You also all know of a trader in JP Morgan, nicknamed London Whale, who entered into a series of complex set of derivatives. The positions that he took turned adverse. And what happened? JP Morgan lost $8 billion. Can you believe it? So all in all, 2007 was a year that when almost the entire world lost faith in the ethics and integrity of banks. Bankers were dubbed as greedy money grabbers. So anybody in the financial sector was facing this kind of a situation. You're also familiar with the movement which was called Occupy Wall Street. What was it? Main issues raised by them were social and economic inequality. They said they constituted 99%, whereas it was the balance 1% who dominated corporate governance. And they were pointing towards greed, corruption, particularly again in the financial sector. Now, well, all that is US, New York. Let's come home. You have heard of our own crises. You must have heard, I don't know, you were very young then, GTB Bank. You must have heard of Satyam. And fast forward, very recently, when you were in college, ILFS, the failure of ILFS and how it, hit the systems. Now, what did this all lead to? What did people like you, when you become corporate managers, when you become CEOs, what will you start worrying about? And that was in 2017. The meeting in Davos, you're all familiar with it, CEOs from the World Economic Forum, who constitute what is known as the International Business Council. They come from 140 different companies. And they issued a statement, and the statement was for responsive and responsible leadership. What did it say? Because and they were conscious of the fact that all corporates draw from society. So it is their responsibility to give back something to the societal resources also. So their statement was, society is best served by corporations that have aligned their goals to the long-term goals of society itself. And they identified themselves with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as the roadmap to attain that alignment. Now, since then, the International Business Council has been addressing some of the practical challenges involved in balancing short-term and long-term business pressures in order to ensure that shareholders and other stakeholders prosper together. That's exactly what your study was also trying to see, what investors, whether they were conscious of the ESG factors or not. Now, but the basic challenge is the lack of consistency by which companies measure and report to investors and other stakeholders the shared and sustainable value that they are creating when they work in society. Now, fast forward again. At its summer meeting 2019 in Geneva, and that was before the pandemic hit us, the IBC launched a project to develop a proposal for consideration on how its members could measure and disclose meaningful and relevant aspects of their performance on the ESG factors, which was environmental, social, and governance matters, and how their contribution to progress on the SDGs could be on a consistent and comparable basis. Now, what was the issue? The issue is, how could reporting be rationalized and made more comprehensive? Reporting which will provide information for stakeholder value creation. And this is what involved the related aspect of investing for value and the rise of the ESG. Now, you are aware that as far as financial reporting is concerned, whether in India, you have INDES, you have US GAAP, you have IFRS standards, whatever it is, there are a subset of very consistent standards which bring about this reporting. But for the non-financial issues, there are no such comprehensive parameters by which reporting can be done. So the attempt is now the inclusion of a core set of global metrics of non-financial information in mainstream reports, which are connected with the financial information. Issues which would respond to stakeholders' concern that they are often material to business resilience and are not reported with the same discipline and rigor as financial information. Now, which is what? If there is an investor looking to invest in an Indian company, earlier he used to look at the health of the balance sheet. He started looking at the ethical content in that balance sheet. Now he is looking for the long-term sustainability, which means how much has that balance sheet been able to mitigate risk, that in case climate change factors had to hit that company, how would they be able to sustain in the long term? And why I mentioned this is going to hit the job market when you folks enter that market is because today your study found that ESG is not affecting those indices. But very soon, global corporates will be looking for those factors. And if they are going to be investing in Indian companies, they will be looking whether those companies have these factors ingrained into them or not. So what global businesses seek is a general framework for companies to demonstrate their long-term sustainability, which means a framework that integrates financial metrics along with relevant non-financial criteria. And what are these non-financial criteria? Environment, social and governance considerations, which you have already familiar with, gender equality, compensation practices, supply chain management, and other activities. Why supply chain management? You are familiar that when the pandemic hit us, when we tried to impose certain economic barriers on supplies coming from China, most of our production activities got hit because the supply chain was getting disrupted somewhere. And that hits long-term sustainability of our businesses. So hence, now the requirement is, the call is for standardization and comparability of reporting on sustainability and climate change issues, which continue to grow as these matters become increasingly important to capital markets. And I want to sensitize you about these non-financial factors because notwithstanding differences in scope and motivation, all stakeholders share a common message today. And that message is an urgent need to improve consistency and comparability in sustainability reporting because standards have not been created. As a result of all that, agencies around the world are engaged in creating standards for sustainability reporting, very much as you have standards for financial reporting. Now, if you were to look into the website of the Indian Cost Accounts or ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, you would find that they have set up a Sustainability Accounting Services Board, which is looking at just this thing. So now, this is futuristic. This is something that you have to plan for. This is something that you will have to factor in future, that any company that you join, even governments today, have been forced to look into the long-term sustainability of the projects that they're launching. So whether it's an investor, or it's a corporate sector, or even it's a central bank, or a market regulator, or a public policy, any one of these areas that you would be getting into, you will have to be sensitive to the fact that non-financial reporting standards are getting very important, and risk mitigation strategies have to factor it in. So I wanted to just sensitize you about it. This is something which is very long-term. I mean, long-term in the sense that 3-4 years from today. And your study was absolutely right. Indian corporates are not sensitized to these ESG factors. That's why your indices indicated that there was not too much of variance. But very soon, the moment we go global, the moment our corporates start competing in the world, these factors will have to be taken into consideration. That was the number one issue that I wanted to sensitize you about. And number two, my pet subject, which is today, we no longer live in a world where the tenet is that end justifies the means. You cannot. We are living in a world which we're living, India is famous for, it's a world of jugaad. But believe me, jugaad is very short term. It will not help you deliver value in the long term. And jugaad may help you turn a corner, but it will not help you, evolve into something which is long-term sustainable and growing. Now, it may seem that people can gain power quickly and easily if they are willing to cut corners and act without the constraints of morality, taking shortcuts. Dishonesty, let me call it dishonesty or irregularity, may provide instant gratification for the moment, but believe me, it will not last. You might quote to me several examples, people around you who without integrity have been successful and who have been winning and have not been caught as yet. But these are examples which will create a false perception of the path to success that one should follow. After all, each person in such examples could have gained the result they wanted for the moment. But unfortunately, that momentary result comes at an incredibly high price with very far-reaching consequences, and bear that in mind. That person who has taken the shortcut, that person has lost his ability to be trusted as a person of integrity. And believe me, that is the most valuable quality that anyone can have in their life and career. Profit in rupees or dollars or power is temporary, but profit in a network of people who trust you as a person of integrity is forever. And I say this, I'm stressing it to you folks. Why? Because as Indian democracy ages, you're all aware that our median population is only 25, which is just about 15 years younger than that of the USA. You are Gen Next. You stand there among the group which is below 25. You are networked across political and geographical barriers. You are not millennials. You are, in fact, post the turn of the millennium. But you have come to represent the biggest group of clients. In my days, when I started earning, my first thing used to be, my father would say, go and open an account in the State Bank of India. Go and take a policy with the LIC. Now, how many of you folks, that is what I call a discerning clientele, will go to State Bank of India? You'd rather go to Axis Bank and ICICI Bank, where you think that the people you are dealing with are more closer to your generation. They understand you. And this group of clients that you form are discerning citizens. You are seeking accountability, and that's what is very important. You must bust the myth of a silent majority. Your job is to speak up, seek accountability from anybody who is in a position of power and authority, and tell him that, look, buddy, if you are sitting that power authority, you are like sitting in a glass cage. Every action of yours can be seen. And if it can be seen, you will be held accountable for that action. And believe me, organizations across the globe have started factoring in these high integrity and ethical moral standards. And you will also be subject to this. Now, believe me, you're familiar with expressions such as if you look at the Indian budget or any other revenue deficit, you're familiar with fiscal deficit. You're familiar with current account deficit. And sometimes in politics, you also hear and become familiar with deficit in trust. But however, where you are concerned, where your country is concerned, you can never live with a deficit of ethics. That is something which the country will never be able to live down. So I place the proposition before you that no business can be sustainable in the long run and have a consistent growth trajectory unless it is based on an edifice of credibility, integrity, and repaying back to societal resources from which it has drawn. So my message to you is, don't attempt shortcuts. Take life in its stride. There is no substitute to hard work. Professional integrity and hard work will always deliver. And believe me, it will take you to unimaginable heights. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to chat with you. This is what I thought I must share with you folks, because you've exposed to a lot of academics. I'm sure that folks like Professor Saroj Joshi must be teaching you lots and lots of things from textbooks. But what I'm telling you is experience from real life. And this is the big, bad world that you will soon be entering. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much for your enlightening words. I believe I speak for everyone here when I say that we have all learned loads from this session. On behalf of Finance and Investment Cell SRCC, thank you for taking out the time to be with us today. We were honored to host you. I now invite Devashish Miglani, the President of FIC, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. I, on behalf of Finance and Investment Cell, Shri Ram College of Commerce, thank you for your presence. We have been honored to have you, sir. Sir, your words of wisdom shall go long way with us and with students of Delhi University. We thank you for opening the annual Finance Summit Episteme on such a high note. And I also thank you for taking out this time from your very, very busy schedule. It has been our immense honor and we shall remain indebted to you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, all participants and members of FIC for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Devashish. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.